Hi guys, it's album review time. We've got Firewind and Stand United. This is coming out on March the 1st on AFM Records. I've had this album for a couple of months now, and obviously I'm sort of so glad that I didn't do the album review early. We've had 5 single releases leading up to this album. There might even be another one coming up, but March the 1st is when it's out. That's next week. Yes, it definitely is next Friday. 10 tracks on this album. It's quite short and sweet. You know, I think it's the perfect length for an album. So we've got no real long tracks either. So you're talking tracks that go from 4 to 5 minutes. For anyone who hasn't heard of Firewind, you should be if you're into like melodic hard rock and metal. It's a Greek. It's described as power metal band on Wiki, and you can sort of hear that. But I think there's so much more than that. For me, they're a straight metal band for me, with power metal tendencies, I would say. This is the 10th studio album, and I was thinking, I was looking about like the history of the band when I was looking up some stuff on Wiki. They've been going or formed in 1998, and old people like me, 1998 seems like yesterday. It's just the only time we actually talk about classic is like 80s. But you think about 1998, what's that, 26 years now this band have been going. So have become a staple really in the metal world, I would say. So we've got 10 tracks here. We've got 10 great tracks here. I think there's something about Firewind, you know. We talk about consistency, you know, in albums and quality of albums. I don't think they've released a bad album. I really do love the first couple of albums. You know, I really latched onto some of those songs. Great choruses, explosive guitar work, of course, by the man Gus G. And I think that the first few albums were brilliant. I love the middle albums as well, but I think the addition of Herbie Langhans, which I'm going to get onto each member in a minute, I think it really propelled them back to the quality of those first couple of albums. But like I said, I don't think they've had a bad album at all. So like I said, this is like straight up metal for me, power metal tendencies. But the reason I say more towards the straight metal is because when I think of power metal, I think of bands like, you know, Halloween and things like that, where you get a lot of the keyboard touches, especially in other bands as well, like Hammerfall. The keyboard is almost like in tandem with the guitar. It's almost like in the mix of these power metal bands. It's right up there in the mix. It's almost playing alongside. I think the guitar here takes priority, but the synth work enhances everything about this band. What it does in this album and Firewind in general, the synth really plays an important part in a melody rather than playing along with the guitars and almost like in other power metal bands. It's almost like giving depth to the sound of it. Here we get crunchy guitar, but we get nice little synth touches throughout. I'll get onto the songs as well because I'll explain more about the synths in them. But everyone in the band is amazing. Let's go through the people in the band. Herbie Langhans, of course, I've already spoken about. He joined the band for their Firewind album, self-titled album, 2020. I remember actually listening to that album because I can't remember what time of the year it came out, but of course 2020 is the year in it for how shit was that year with COVID and stuff like that. And it must have been a hard time for the band, just like anyone else. They probably would have gone on tour with that album, and you know, it just all went to shit, didn't it? But I remember listening to the album at home, and I think it was during COVID I was listening to it. I was blown away by that album. And like I said, the addition of Herbie Langhans and his really sort of that really cool tone he's got like a Dio-esque tone, and he's got that rough edge about him in a cool way, by the way. I think he sounds amazing, and unmistakable vocals by Herbie Langhans. Of course, he's busy with other projects and stuff, but Firewind is his thing, and he sounds great with this band. Gus G on guitar. I mean, this is his... You know, it's his baby, really. He does the guitar and the keys on here. So that just proves what an amazing musician he is. And I love the way the industry talks about Gus G. He's such a nice, humble guy. And, you know, he's for such an amazing musician. You get a lot of musicians, don't you, that are really amazing musicians and they're twats along with it. You know what I mean? They're just people you can't approach. Apparently, Gus G is the opposite. He's such a nice guy, really humble. And when you play guitar like he does, I mean, there's some amazing... trickery on here. He can play at speed. It's melody all the way through as well, and the keys as well. I've mentioned those. The synth work across this, and a synth although this heavy chugging and riffy guitars are going on, the synth can really play an important part where it plays this melody separate and it just hooks you in. Quite amazing stuff, really. Petro Cristo on the bass and Joe Nunez on the drums. I've got to say, across this album, there's some amazing, you know, at times really fast double. It might not be fast songs, but some of the rhythm sections are, you know, double kick, and the bass is just right in tune with it. I think these guys have been with the band a little while now. So Herbie Langens is the only, like the latest addition, if you like, in 2020. But they sound so tight. There's some chugging that goes along in here. I don't think not a lot of bands chug like this band when they go in chugging mode. But what they do is they come in and out of riffs, then they chug, which always emphasizes that metal chug that you get. But the riffing as well across this album is amazing. It's a proper guitar album, but with the addition of some great musicians. You know, you've got Herbie Langens and the guys, like I already mentioned, in the rhythm section. It's definitely a band here. I mean, it's Gus G's baby, but it's a band. It's the songs that count. I'm going to go through the songs. Speaking of the songs, and like I said, we've had 5 single releases already, and I think I've done a reaction to every one. So I've heard half of this album before I listened to the full album anyway. I don't know what that does now, you know. Does it enhance it that you've heard half of it? I'm sort of stuck in the middle with that. That's a debate for another day. But I mean, we've heard half the album already. But kicking off the album is obviously the single Salvation Day. Medium to fast paced track. A great explosive start to the album. And they sound informed. They really sound tight, man. And obviously, I don't know if I think they've been playing shows like recently. That sometimes really helps with the band when they get back in the studio, you know. The band just, this song just riffs, it chugs, it soars, it sort of sums up this album really in the first song. Those cool synths just sort of blend in perfectly with those heavy riffs from Gus G. This band sound great here. They're really tight, like I said, and I think that live situation might be helping that as well. There's a fast, almost neoclassical first half of the solo, and then it breaks into another half of the solo like with a wah-wah effect on it. It's an amazing start to the album. Brilliant solo as usual. Then we get on to the next track, Stand United. Obviously, this is the title track. There's a cool technical riff kicks this one off, and then a fast sort of power metal track precedes it. Gus is really sounding amazing here. The speedy verses sort of make way for a great chorus that sort of slows down, but is backed up brilliantly by some double kick drum. Like I said, some of the riffs come in really sort of slow and heavy, and then you can hear that double kick with a great production, sort of just making the most of it in the background. Then we get to another single, Destiny is Calling. Love this track, like a medium to fast paced track. A really catchy melody kicks this one off, and you get that sort of cool heavy chug that the band go into, and that works its way to a really hooky chorus where this catchy synth melody carries the hook. Love the heavy breakdown that leads into the solo, and the solo just kicks absolute arse. It really does. Then we go on to The Power Lies Within. The band slow down a touch with it, sort of medium paced heavy track. The intro melody gives me slight Scorpions vibes, like the guitar part over it. The riffs are really heavy in this medium paced groove. I think the chorus this time, although, you know, Firewind are just a mass with catchy choruses. Chorus in this one sort of takes a couple of spins to work its way into your head. Once it gets there, of course, it just doesn't let go. Come Undone is the next track. This was another single. You don't get much more classic Firewind than you do in this sort of track. Again, ultra catchy synth melody sort of runs through parts of this. The bridge to the chorus is just huge, and it's backed up by a chorus that is even bigger. Amazing stuff. European metal at its best. Brilliant. Then we move on to another single, Fallen Angel. The song almost sounds like a video game bit at the beginning. I remember when I first heard this, when I'd done a reaction, I thought, what the hell is that? And then we hit another massive single. This is one of my favourite riffs on the album, actually. It's sort of hits so hard after the chorus. I just can't get enough of it. It's sort of like a slide bit that Gus G does on the guitar. It just gets me every time. I go on about little parts in songs that just you're waiting for. That's a part that I wait for. It's brilliant, excellent stuff. Then we move on to Chains, another single, medium paced song. Love the guitar melody at the start of this track. almost like a slighter, speedier Hell's Bells sort of riff. It's brilliant. This might be the most melodic track on the album as well. One of my favourites for sure. Herbie is on fire, man. He really is. Flexing his vocal muscles and sort of being subtle when he needs to and aggressive at other times. Amazing stuff. Land of Chaos is the next track. This is like a medium to fast paced track. This almost gives me Dio vibes, especially like in the verses, Herbie really giving that aggressive vocal like he can do. The chorus is classic Firewind. It really is. It's got a really thumping rhythm section. Another cool chorus that hits all the right notes. A really heavy riff leading into the solo. It's just a neck breaker, that riff. Brilliant stuff. Then we move on to the last two songs. Track 9 is Talking in Your Sleep. This is actually a cover of an 80s song by the Romantics. I didn't actually know. I haven't heard the song, so I don't know if it was big in America or something, but I definitely didn't hear this song. So I went and listened to the original as well. I mean, what they've done, they've taken a proper 80s pop song and beefed it up into the obviously the classic Firewind sound, but kept some of those real cool 80s pop vibes running through the track. It's a brilliant track, and it is one of my favourites as well. What they've done with this song is amazing. It's definitely a standout on the album in style and what they have done with the track. Talk about bring the Firewind sound, like I said, to a long lost sort of classic 80s song that I've never heard of. So that was a bit shit, wasn't it? Executed perfectly. Then we move on to the last track, Days of Grace. This is a sort of slower song, almost like the ballad of the album, but not quite. But, you know, it's just Firewind, man. So the album has been pretty heavy up to now and quite fast-paced at times, sort of medium to fast-paced songs. And it's nice to hear an acoustic guitar and Herbie's vocals kicking this off. But, of course, like I said, it does get heavy during this great metal ballad. The song flirts in and out of the heavy guitar and the acoustic parts. It's a real epic way to finish the album. You know, out of all the finishes I want on an album, I think slow it down, make it epic. It is the perfect end to an album, and it's another standout on the album as well. One of my favourites on the album. So that's it, guys. Firewind and Stand United. It's a great album. If you're a Firewind fan, you're not going to be disappointed. If you're not a Firewind fan, get it now and try Firewind out. If you think they just sound like any other power metal band, they don't. They really don't. You've got some amazing musicianship, some amazing songwriting, some of the best songwriting you get in metal. They are amazing. Firewind, Stand United. Check it out, guys. Let me know in the comments below if you're going to get it, and I'll see you soon.